So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much again for coming along to our Boomerang Labs webinar for the end of July. I'm really excited to be bringing you this topic of tackling the growing mountain of consumer tech waste. It's been a really popular subject. We've had a lot of registrations, which has been fantastic, and we're really excited to hear from our three speakers today and also to get into a Q&A. Before we do get into it, we do like to always start with the acknowledgement of country. So Boomerang Labs acknowledges the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we all work and live, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I pay my respects to the Wanneroo people from the Hunter region, but I do welcome you to also acknowledge based on the lands that you're coming from today as well. If this is your first webinar, I just want to introduce Boomerang Labs. If this isn't your first webinar, you can tune out for the next 60 seconds or so. You could probably even take over the script from me because you know it quite well. Boomerang Labs is Australia's first circular economy accelerator. So we work with startups, innovators and small businesses that are trying to build circular systems and solutions into their core operations. We work with organisations at all stages, from initial ideation, where it's really an idea that they're seeing whether it's worth pursuing, all the way through to small businesses and startups that are looking to scale and commercialise. We run cohort-based programs, we hold one-on-one coaching, and we run a lot of events, which we see is really core to our work, building our community, staying in touch with what's happening in circular economy, and being able to connect the innovators that we work with other people in the space. And that's why we're here today and why we run our monthly webinar series. Our next webinar is live on Humanitics. If you're interested, we'll be chatting about life cycle assessment and looking at how we can get lessons out of that sort of measurement system. It'll be very interesting. We're still holding off on the speaker announcement, as we like to do, put the topic out there before making that reveal. Yeah, get in now and check that one out. We do have a couple of other events coming up too that I'd like to let you know about. Starting with this Friday, Boomerang Labs is a partner of the Rico Live event in Sydney. I'm putting a link in the chat for that one too. We have a 25% off discount code if anyone's interested. 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. at Art Space in Sydney, which will be great fun. In the afternoon, in the exact same space, the Circular Economy Club Sydney will be running our We're in a Pickle workshop, which has got 3 fantastic speakers talking about resource longevity. And for a little bit of fun, we're also going to have the option for you to make a jar of pickles, which is the perfect individual household level resource longevity activity. Our event for the Circular Economy Club Sydney after that is at the end of August, and it is going to be Sort and Social at the Banish Sustainability Hub. So yes, that's the end of my shameless plugs for our various events, but we do love to be able to share all the different options to stay involved with us. As I mentioned, today we've got a number of speakers talking about the e-waste challenges, and here are the names written up on the screen. So we have Caroline DeSanti, Alvaro Rodas, Fernandez, and Darren Johansson. Each of our speakers will give a short presentation and then we will get into some Q&A. So please get your questions into the chat through the presentations and we can answer those all together at the end. We really love to have those there so that you're getting what you like out of this session rather than me just using this as a chance to pick at their brains. So I would be very happy to have that if everyone's feeling a bit shy this morning. So thank you again. That's enough from me. We will get straight into the presentation, starting with Caroline from Sustainability Victoria.
Thank you, Katie. I'll just share my screen. Perfect. I think everyone can see the screen now. Thank you and good morning, everyone. I'm Caroline. I'm a team leader in the Infrastructure Partnership at Sustainability Victoria. And just for some background, I manage infrastructure funding program, and I've been mainly focusing lately on hazardous waste and bioenergy, and previously I managed the e-waste program. So today I'm just going to present you a summary of the work Sustainability Victoria has done in the e-waste space and how we have supported the industry and council following the announcements in 2015 of the e-waste landfill ban in Victoria, which started on the 1st of July 2019. Victoria was the second state behind South Australia to implement a ban on e-waste. So for background, I know not everyone is from Victoria. Sustainability Victoria, which I may sometimes say SV, that's how we call ourselves. We are a delivery agency of the Victorian government focusing on accelerating the state's transition to a circular, climate resilient and clean economy. We achieve this by delivering programs, providing information, education campaign, and partnering with organizations. My presentations won't cover regulations and policy because that's handled by the department. So next slide. Oh, sorry, just try to, yeah. Perfect. So just before I start, I would like also to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which I'm based today, which is the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and pay my respects to the elder past and present. So to start, I just would like to take everyone through a timeline of the work that SV has done. So as mentioned, the ban took effect on the 1st of July in 2019, but the Victorian government announced it in 2015. So to inform our decision on how to best support the industry and council, and also ensure smooth implementation of the ban, we commissioned several studies. If you're interested in any of the studies, they're all available on the sustainability website. So in 2015, we did the first Victorian e-waste materials flow analysis to understand the flow of e-waste before the ban, and also we had a deep dive on photovoltaic panels. In 2018, we commissioned what we call the Victorian e-waste infrastructure network assessment. That was to ensure we had an appropriate collection system, which was a detailed assessment of all Victorian e-waste collection and storage sites as of 2018. And then we compiled that into the Victorian e-waste collection network site, which was a network of all sites that have an agreed standard of AS Australian Standard 5377. Following these two reports, we had that informed the round one of the e-waste support grants. So we upgraded 123 of those e-waste collection network sites. And then in 2019, we reviewed the network assessment report to inform the design of the second round of funding, which was released in 2020. And the second round, we focus on upgrading additional collection sites, but also supporting the e-waste reprocessing capability and capacity in Victoria. So after 2 years of the ban in 2021, we did another material flow analysis, including another deep dive on photovoltaic. And then since 2021, some of the funds provided under the Recycling Victoria policy have further supported the industry and council in the e-waste space. We also have behavior change campaign called the Small Act, Big Impact. So just some key points I think would be good to share about the 2022 material flow analysis. No surprise, e-waste is a growing waste stream with a projected increase at 2.7% per annum. PV was 15% per annum. In Victoria, 85% of the e-waste generated are collected and sent for processing. Only 60% of the total e-waste is then being recycled. 75% of those 85% of e-waste generated are being recycled by metal recyclers and 25% by recycling facility. Small e-waste was the lowest recovery rate at 47%, and as also how everyone will know, e-waste is made of different materials, and so the e-plastic and glass market are lacking. And also we noticed that most of the recycling facilities are in metropolitan Melbourne, and there's a lack of them in the region. So the role of SV, as I said, we've done a lot of research and analysis to inform work. We have had several grants over the past few years. We also do some facilitations, and we have an investment team that provide that provide a free service and offer personalized support and project development assistance for companies that would like to invest in Victoria's circular economy. We advocate in product stewardships. And I mentioned quickly the two campaigns that we had in 2019 with the ban. We had the Take Your E-Waste to a Better Place, and our current campaign, which is a Small Acts, Big Impact. So this has resulted. So we had a $15 million package to help build the collection network. We upgraded 140 collection sites, which resulted in 98% of the Victorian population as of 2016, which had access to a drive time of 30 minutes to any waste drop-off facility. That slide also depicts different types of infrastructures that we funded that meet the council's needs. We, as I said too, we have also helped increase the capacity and capability to reprocess e-waste and have invested more than $4 million through different funding programs. Some of them has been for recyclers, some looking at e-plastic and also battery. And under the e-waste support program, we funded 5 reprocessors to help them build the capacity and capability. This slide is just an example of the behavior change and education campaigns that we have. So we had, in 2019, we ran for 6 months the Take Your E-Waste to a Better Place. And then in 2021, as part of the Recycling Victoria policy, we had a new campaign that has been running until now, which is a Small Act, Big Impact. It supports Victorians to adopt small acts to reduce waste and recycle more. And since the launch in 2021, a recommended small act has been to encourage Victorians to not put e-waste in household bins, as you can see with one of those GIFs. The campaign materials have also been translated in 10 different languages, the 10 most other spoken in English in Victoria. So what's happening now in Victoria? We have a round of the hazardous waste round 4 that is open. Grants are open for applications, and we are supporting Victorian Council and registered charities in Victoria to install or upgrade battery drop-off points at convenient locations. You can find all information if that's of interest on the SV website. Investment facilitation is still providing guidance, and I've put the email address if you wish to contact them. And the SABI, which is another acronym that we like acronym in the government, the Small Act Big Impact campaign is still running. We ran in June a battery and electronic campaign, and we'll run more later this year. And I've put a link, and I can share the presentation if wanted at the end, to some of the pages about e-waste that the Small Act Big Impact campaign has on a website to promote minimizing e-waste, but also the drop-off of used batteries, where to drop off your used batteries and electronic in Victoria. And that's everything for me today. Thank you very much, and happy to take any questions later on the work we've been doing.
Great. Thank you so much, Caroline. That's fantastic. I really appreciate that presentation. And yes, to echo that, please add any questions to the chat. We'd love to go through these. We will save them till after all of the presentations, because we find often a question for one person can also be a question for 2 or 3. So thank you again, Caroline. Your time to relax now. I'll hand over to Darren from Smart Energy Council for his presentation now.
Thanks, Kate, and that was great, Caroline. Good morning, everybody. I would like to start off with a slightly different perspective, and that is I have a problem thinking about this topic in terms of waste. If there is a problem, the problem is the scale and direction of our consumption. To me, framing decommissioned, end-of-life or point-of-disposal product as waste allows us to think that anything we can do with this stuff, other than putting in a hole like landfill, which we feel very guilty about, we think that that's okay. The issue is that it gives social license for us to consider downcycling and other suboptimal outcomes as acceptable, when in reality we can't afford to do that anymore. It's my view that we can't hide the fact that we have a massive consumption overshoot and that we're running out of critical materials. And that this is super risky, not just at an economic level, but on a civilizational one. But it's also a massive opportunity. So to understand the situation, the starting point is drivers of demand. There are many, but we can see four main clusters: population, decarbonisation, digitisation, and AI-enabled robotics. These four things are currently acting together to create a perfect storm of demand. People, I think, understand that the global population is increasing, but what's often not well understood is the consumption multiplier which is playing out. In simple terms, we have more people. We have more people being lifted out of poverty, which is a good thing, so they have higher consumptive capacity. And we have more people at a time with higher consumptive capacity when there is a significant change in the nature of demand, meaning that we require more of certain classes of products. And this is leading to a complete shift in per capita and total demand for certain materials. Decarbonisation, electrification of our transport and energy ecosystem, is requiring vast amounts of metals. Global production estimates for solar PV modules alone are north of 50 billion units. But there is also wind turbines, new transmission systems, EVs, and battery energy storage systems. And then there's digitisation. Digitisation is massively hungry for materials. Data centres alone will consume more than 500 tonnes of gold. But the big materials black swan is the meteoric rise of AI-enabled humanoid robotics. Current estimates are that annual production will exceed 100 million units per year by 2030. These things together mean that we're talking about billions and billions of units and many millions of tonnes in additional raw materials. The IEA, the International Energy Agency, has done a lot of work in trying to understand the future materials requirements. As you can see, the increased demands on reserves are significant and substantial. This is going to place a lot of pressure on the supply of key materials. For many critical materials, the earth stocks, and I'm talking about resources as well as reserves, are becoming increasingly scarce. So this begs the question, do we have enough materials? Well, basically, in the short term, the answer is no. For copper, we have a 30% shortfall by 2035, 50% by 2050, and nearly 70% by 2100. For silver, we're already in a massive structural deficit, with the past 2 years' demand outstripping the past 10 years of surpluses. So the IEA suggests the only way we can solve this problem is through urban mining, a global materials recovery ecosystem at the centre of our economy. Now, this is no small task. For example, refined copper from secondary sources needs to shift from 24% of the total supply to nearly 45% by 2050, and silver to 65%. Now, is this actually possible? I think the answer is yes, but it's going to take a lot of innovation across the supply chain. This is a stocks and flows chart for copper from the Fraunhofer Institute. In simple terms, it maps the global volumes of copper from mines, secondary sources, refining, consumption, recovery, and back to refining. It's difficult to consume quickly. However, the key metrics I'd like to focus on are material losses from secondary sources. In this report, whilst the stocks entering end of life are 112,000 kilotons, less than 40% of the materials end up entering the refining process. 4% is lost, I guess, stuck in drawers or garages. 40% is lost to the collection system, presumably landfilled. And more importantly, and this is very important, 16% of the total is lost in the materials liberation process. And then another 3% from refining. To reach the targets required, we need to significantly increase the volumes we collect, but it also means that we need to have better technology for product recovery and better product design. We can do this, and solar PV is a massive opportunity. This is a decommissioning forecast of consumer and large-scale solar in Australia out to 2043. We expect roughly 145 million modules will be decommissioned over that period, and currently that number is about 3.5 million. To put that into perspective, that's about 68,000 tonnes or 2,800 semi-trailer loads. Now, this represents at least a $6.5 billion resource opportunity, including Australia's single biggest source of silver. So in summing up, I'd like to say that this is a massive opportunity for entrepreneurs and innovators, which needs to be supported more fully by the correct policy and regulatory frameworks at both the federal and state level. And if you have any questions, feel free to connect to me anytime. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. That was great. And yeah, definitely a great opportunity to join that WhatsApp group. If you're interested, everyone. Thank you very much for that presentation. The final presentation we have before we get to Q&A is from Alvaro from RecycleSmart. So I will replace that spotlight. He is now, if you'd like to start sharing screen. We've had a state government agency, we've had a peak body organisation, and now we're looking at a startup scale up, I guess. Now RecycleSmart's going great guns. So really fantastic to see all scales of action here. Thanks, Alvaro.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I also want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from where I am coming, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation here. And I want to pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging, and anyone in this call who is Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples. So here I am. My name is Alvaro, obviously, and I'm recently appointed the Chief Commercial Officer at RecycleSmart. I used to work in a corporate that everyone in this call probably knows, which is Qantas, and I was doing sustainability. And then I got that middle life crisis on saying, I don't think I'm doing enough in my life that makes an impact. So I thought, oh, well, I got to know these people from RecycleSmart. It's like, I'm just going to join this party. And to be honest with you, I knew quite a bit about carbon offsets and stuff and energies and type of things like that. But I didn't really know anything about what the impact of waste is in environment. And this has been an eye-opener for me. So I'm just gonna go through the presentation very quickly. Sorry, but this is kind of like that the thing that I found out, that there's over half a million kilos of e-waste generated in Australia, and it actually goes, I mean, 65% of that goes usually to landfill. Now I'm part of the problem. I was part of the problem because I was like, oh well, these batteries, I don't know what to do with them, yellow bin, or this, this mobile phone, I don't really care. I'll just throw it to, give it back to someone, or I'll throw it into the bin. And it goes to landfill if you put it in red bin or yellow bin. So it needs to be collected and recycled properly, which is what RecycleSmart is, trying to work as part of the solution. So this is the solution. We're not a recycler, we are a collection company. We are a national reverse logistics company. So we collect items from customers, individual customers in the households, from businesses, and also from council facilities. And then we take them to our consolidation points or warehouses. You can see some of them in these photos. We sort them out into different streams, and then we take them to our approved recyclers. I have been visiting them. I only started in last November, but I've been visiting lots of recyclers, and been looking at what they do, which is quite fascinating to see. So we work with 26 councils who subsidize doorstep collections and also subsidize sometimes community recycling centers or hubs in those councils. And this is what we do. Like, this is the three areas that we follow, like doorstep collection that can be either paid by the customer or subsidized by the council. We also do business pickups, which could be a small, big, I'll show you later. And then the councils mainly is the recycling hubs, like town halls or libraries, and then community recycling centers collections. I'm just gonna pass this to this one. So we don't only collect e-waste, and this is why we have a little bit of an economy of a scale working out here, because we collect e-waste, but we also collect any other dry items that are actually recyclable, which is majority, soft plastics, hard plastics, textiles, misfit items like batteries, coffee cups, vapes, polystyrene. The only thing that we don't collect is basically organics and hazardous items like, sharp knives or biohazardous hazardous items. Sorry, that's it. So you can see some of them. I didn't know even that the item on the top right hand inside was called blister packs. Apparently, it's called blister packs, and we also have ability to recycle that, etc. So let's talk about e-waste, which is what I'm here to talk about. So what we do with e-waste is we collect it from obviously businesses, from consumers, and from councils, and we take everything into our warehouse, and we sort out these items into basically 3 or 4 different streams. Stream number 1 is items that have data that needs to be erased. So that's mobile phones, laptops, tablets, all those items. So we separate them and we actually put them specifically. You can see that's in our warehouse in Mascot. We put them in those buckets there. Then we have household appliances combined, which is, that piano, and then you've got like toasters and many of those items that, are useless at the end. And then the other part that we do is also modems and cables. The reason we separate the modems is because we work with some companies that reuse those modems and refurbish them again to be used. And then the cables, because they have the copper. So we cut the cables from all those household appliances, from modems, etc. And then we cut them and then separate them to make sure that the plastic and the copper is separated and recycled. Those are the three ones. On the mobiles, the household appliances and the modems, we use different recyclers, but specific for the mobile phones, we use 2 recyclers, or actually 3, that before doing anything with them, erase the data with softwares that are actually approved, and they delete all the data and the secure data, and then they kind of work on separating all those elements like the silver, the gold, the metal, etc., and just use them into the different elements to be reused, repurposed, recycled. So basically, this is the recycled outcomes. You'll be able to read this through, but the data is removed from the storage. The items are safely dismantled. So we recover the different elements, and the recyclers do, and then they use them for the different use of electronics. The plastics is also an issue, and I know plastics, and we work with lots of recyclers that deal with plastics. But the recyclers that we use that plastics to melt it down and then turn into either new items or elements for street furniture as well. So I wanted to mention as well, there is a throwaway culture, which I was part of it. So I'm first of all, I put my hand up to say I was part of, and now I started to understand the impact that the e-waste and in general waste is generating in our climate and in our environment and in the economy in Australia. But the average of this culture is actually costing almost 1,500 to each one of us. And before we toss it, we should consider taking it, you take it to a local repair store, repair cafe. But I'm gonna say, if you think of something, recycle it through us. Give it to us, and we'll be able to give it a second life. We actually have reporting that shows how many items, how many kilos we have collected, what happens with them, where we send them to, and what happened with those items, etc., etc. So that's the biggest thing that we show, is like we are transparent in the whole process. We collect, we don't recycle, but we take it to recyclers that provide us with reports that confirm that those items have been repurposed or reused or recycled in a proper manner. We also give a point of contamination, how much contamination we found, or how much hasn't been able to be recycled. So We work with all these partners and many others as well, but these are some of the partners that we work with. And just as a last kind of slide, is just to give the idea that we have actually, since we started in 2019, we have managed to divert from landfill like 1.5 million kilos of resources, out of which almost 270,000 kilos are e-waste. We have currently 38,000 users, 1.1 million. You can see those stats there. We are actually everywhere in Australia except for the Northern Territories at the moment. So we have facilities and we collect, and drivers that collect in all the states and territories except for the Northern Territories. And yeah, that's basically my presentation. It's not a sales pitch per se, because obviously it's fine. Obviously we do this, but the reason I am actually so passionate and I don't mind giving this pitch is because what we do is it's essential and it's very important to tackle the waste problem that we have, e-waste and other streams that we have. And I would be more than happy to get a lot of competition from other companies to be able to tackle this problem and reduce and eliminate e-waste. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alvaro. And I think that's a great message to finish up on. I think so important that we do have competition for multiple reasons of making sure we get the best stuff out there, but also we can tackle these problems a lot more quickly. So yeah, thank you so much for that. Thank you to all of our presenters. That's been fantastic. I've just put a spotlight on all of us so that we don't get lost in the other faces. I'm going to start going through the questions that we have in the chat. We've got a few already, which is great, but if anyone else thinks of anything, please add that and I'll keep reading the questions as I go. The first question for you, Caroline, comes from Joanna from the Yarra City Council. Joanna has asked if there's been any data on the impacts of the Small Act, Big Impact campaign. Have you seen a reduction in the amount of e-waste put into bins?
Thank you, Katie. I'm happy to take Joanna's question on notice and get back to her, because I don't work directly on the Small Ag Big Impact. However, I know that they are measuring the impact of their campaign. So I can get to the team. I can contact the team that is working on it. And if Joanna wants to leave me an email, or I can put my email in the chat and she can email me, I can reply to her once I've reached out to the team. But I know they do collect data to look at the impact, but I don't have any data with me. So
yeah, great, thank you. The next question perhaps is also best for you to start the answer. Maybe I'll throw to the others for their perspectives. But Jess has asked if the government's looking to invest in the innovation of e-waste recycling to increase the output of materials.
So that was for me. Sorry.
Yeah, if you want to yourself.
Is the government looking to invest in the innovation of e-waste recycling? I would there is interest. At the moment, SV doesn't have any funding, but I would say to Jess to contact the investment team, and I think it was in my presentation, and I'll put the email in the chat too, because they might be able to help and just to direct him or her, I don't know, sorry, towards the government authorities that can help them, or towards players. So our investment team do help with facilitations, and I think it would be the best person to talk to. But yeah, we're always looking to invest, but it depends on money. But some other, I only talk for Victorian government, obviously not the others, but some other department might have money, or we can just help you by facilitating and contacting you to the right, maybe other stakeholders or other players we know in the market.
Darren, you read my mind. I was going to ask you next, and you put your hand up. Do you want to add to that at all?
If I may, something like 93% of the technology in the crystalline solar module was invented here in Australia. So we were leaders in the development of solar technology. And one thing Australia can be very proud of is that its innovation in the materials recovery space is also world leading. So we have some really fantastic new techs coming out of the University of New South Wales and other independent innovators. There's a fantastic entrepreneur in Queensland who has 99% recovery for solar PV modules and high quality separated recyclates. So to the question, it's critical that we continue to invest in our recycler ecosystem and create the best policy and regulatory frameworks to make sure that they're successful, because these recyclers can reach out globally. And I think one of the biggest PV recyclers based in the US is, this is a typical story, was a graduate of the University of New South Wales, couldn't get started, and then moved to the US and has raised, I think, $80 million to build a fully integrated solar recycling plant. So we really do need that investment from governments.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Sharon. The next question, maybe not so much it isn't framed as a question here, but more of a suggestion from Adam Norris. He said, Alvaro, you need to collaborate and scale with Darren's help to prepare for urban mining. Interested to hear if either of you have a comment on if you've looked into collaborations between the two organisations or even just other players in this field.
I'm always open to collaborations with different industries and with different bodies and governments and businesses to collaborate in any opportunities to recycle and to repurpose and to increase the diversion from landfill. So I'm more than happy to hear from you. Was it Adam, the person that made that comment, right? So
Yes,
I'm
Adam.
more than happy to hear about it, definitely. Obviously, we just a logistics company, and we will kind of connect the recyclers with or the people who actually repurpose everything with the consumers, be it government, individuals or businesses. So happy to talk. I'm here, so please feel free to. I mean, I think the email address is in the presentation, so you can obviously email me if you like, Adam.
Great. Anything to add, Darren?
Oh, I'm happy to collaborate. So a lot of the work that the Smart Energy Council does as a peak body is in market development. And so we're running pilot programs at the moment in Queensland for recycling and collections of energy storage systems and PV modules and inverters. And so I know that there's a real gap in the quality of the collections ecosystem. It's a real opportunity. And I've said to Alvaro that RecycleSmart's actually, I think, one of the best examples of a collection organisation out there in the ecosystem at the moment, because they've really solved that problem of where is the pain point and then who's going to pay for it. And so it's a very innovative system. So we'd be very keen to collaborate with RecycleSmart or any other businesses to try and improve the collections ecosystem for solar modules.
Great, thank you very much. Leah's asked a question, Leah from Recheck. She's asked for Alvaro. I suspect some of the devices that you revive for collection are reusable. Do you direct these to an organisation who can refurbish and redistribute them, such as the Reconnect project?
We actually work with the Reconnect project, actually.
Oh, cool.
So we do work with them for and we provide them lots of mobile phones and tablets and laptops and any other reusables. And even if they are not completely reusable, they actually work with. They are social. Apart from being a not-for-profit, they are also social enterprise, and they work with the people who work in the organization. If you don't know, if people in the call don't know, they are actually kind of from disability. They kind of have some sort of disability, so they are the people who work by deleting the data and then helping refurbishing those phones to be given to other people. So yes, we do work with them here in Sydney. In other states, we also work with other organizations. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, the short answer is yes. But thank you, Leah, for your question.
Great, thank you. James has asked around the reprocessing he said that reprocessing requires the EPA and some other government approvals. Do you have a sense of the time lead and number of steps required to start or grow a recycling operation? As a follow-up, he's asked which state and cities is the most positive in building such facilities. And his reflection is that they're hearing that there's takes some years and are obstructive to new facilities, limiting capacity. Darren, you're nodding. Do you want to jump in on that one?
Oh, yeah, it's a significant issue. At the moment, our national capacity for processing solar PV modules sits at about 700,000 units per year. So the current waste stream is sitting at about 3.5 million. It's probably going to expand to somewhere between 5.5 and 7.5 million a year over the next 12 months because of the impact of the Cheaper Home Batteries program. In order to get a recycler up and running, it takes at least 2 years to get a site approved, or find the site, get the site approved, get through all the planning approvals, get insurances. It takes forever. It's really difficult. It's a real delay factor. So yeah, somehow we need to accelerate that process. And I think the best we've seen is about 11 months so far. It's a long time.
Absolutely. Caroline, I wondered if you had any reflections on that too, particularly you may be biased saying which state and city is the most positive, but
I don't know about the other states, but I know that actually in terms more of battery, there has been more investment in Victoria than other states. We were we are the first states who had the lithium battery reprocessing. So I guess some work has been done in Victoria. I won't talk on behalf of the EPA, but I know that from the EPA permissions teams, you can contact them and they can give you an overview of what the steps are going to be. It's also really depending on how much e-waste you're going to process. Sometime also the timeline with the latest, act, and but depends on how much you process usually and how much you store on site. The different permissions you will need, which impact then time and everything. But I won't say anything about the other states because I don't know much about their EPA pathway. But I know that in general it takes time. So we've heard it from our stakeholders.
Yeah, thank you. And Alvaro, I'm interested, obviously, like you said, you're looking at the collection side rather than necessarily the recycling yourselves, but how do you find the process of onboarding new local government? There's different hoops to jump through compared to a purely recycling facility, but how does that look like in terms of a lead time for you to start a new area?
So a new area, to open a new area is not that difficult for us, just because we can open it if we have enough demand from consumers. With regards to the local government areas, the councils themselves, it does take a little bit of time to get things going, just because there is a kind of a tender process that they have to follow a number of procedures that obviously they are necessary for the public sector. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time up to, it depends on how quickly they answer to the tender, but usually it could be like 6 to 9 months to open. That's the difficulty with councils. I think councils, obviously there is a constraint with budgets and everything like that, but it is important that councils hopefully getting grants or through, the collection services, they get on board, because many of the residents cannot afford to pay for these collections. But we are not fighting against other competitors like us. We fight it against landfill, which unfortunately at this point in time is cheaper than actually do the proper recycling. And not that we are trying to make money or anything like that. It's more expensive, period. It's more expensive to do the right thing than not doing it the right thing. And that's something that probably not the councils, but more federal and state governments need to push for more legislation, more compliance from businesses, from everyone, to make sure that these things happen. It's just a task for the government, and we are here to lobby them, but it's the government at the end of the day who has to do the right thing by legislating.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Really appreciate that perspective. Darren, did you have anything to add there?
Look, national harmonised landfill bans would be a great start. I know South Australia has an e-waste ban, but it doesn't include solar PV modules. And so what we find is that there is a jurisdictional shifting of waste streams to lower cost jurisdictions. So the cost of recycling a solar module, excluding logistics, is somewhere between $8 and $15. Whereas in other states, the cost of landfill is somewhere between $2 and $6 per unit. And so there's an economic incentive just to stick the stuff in a truck because you've got that logistics cost anyway and send it across the state border. So that we do need a national harmonised approach to landfill bans. 100%.
Thank you. And while I've still got you there, Darren, James has got a second question regarding the conditions of commodity prices that are rising. Do you know of amounts of, critical minerals, I'm assuming James is referring to, used in devices? Are they being dropped or substituted, or are resource recovery operations becoming more profitable?
There's a few bits to that question. So commodity prices are generally going up. So copper prices are increasing and silver prices are increasing on the back of a number of different factors. One is including supply, but there's also the issues related to somewhat erratic foreign policy from America is causing impacts on commodity prices. So there's a few things at play on that. Substitution is a thing. So in solar modules, there's about 20 to 30 grams of silver per module. And so manufacturers are getting more efficient with the amount of silver that they put in each module. So it's falling. So it was 30 something and now it's 20 something and it's going to fall further. Of course, that has an impact on the economics of recyclers. The less silver that they get, the less value of the materials that they recover. So they have to get higher economies of scale in order to break even. And there is also substitution occurring where there are new technologies using other metals such as copper to act as the conductor. Of course, copper has its own supply chain issues, but it is at the moment cheaper than using silver. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this. I just want to underline the fact that my materials limits forecasts they're wrong. Everyone who does a materials forecast is wrong because things move really quickly. But I think right now, globally, the critical minerals markets are starting to adjust, that they do see constrained supply going forward. And in some cases, it's not just about opening new mines. It's actually about we've got a pretty good sense of what materials are left in the ground, particularly for silver. We're kind of reaching that limits to growth that was forecast in the 70s. And that is affecting prices.
Thanks, Darren. Appreciate that. We will need to go to the next question, but James, if you have any follow-ups, please add that to the chat there. Thank you. So the next question we have is another one from Adam Norris. He's asked that we're seeing great initiatives to deal with the waste volumes we're currently experiencing, but have any of you seen what government and industry are doing further up the R's impact hierarchy, which are more behavioural / design focused, such as refuse, rethink, reduce? Open that up to everyone, whoever wants to jump in first on that.
I'm more than happy to give a bit. We had a grant program which is all about repair and reuse. We also had we helped council with repair cafes. So we have had different grants program. I haven't gone into detail in the presentation, but some of them were more focused on repair and reuse because we also had the ban. We needed, the solutions for all the e-waste that we were going to collect. So we also looked at the recycling, but usually we try as the Victorian government to first go for refuse, reduce, rethink and reduce, and then go further down like recycling. We also the small ag big impact. I've just shown a few in my presentation, a few excerpts of it, but they were also looking at refuse and rethink and reduce in general as part of it. So that was some of the work that SV has done. It might not all be towards e-waste, but in general, yeah.
Thank you. And then next question we have here is from Greg. Is it known approximately how many private companies in Australia are profitable in removing the metals from e-waste? That might be for you, Alvaro, but Darren, you might also have insights into that.
Darren may have more insights on that. Private companies that are profitable from removing the metals. I don't have the information about basically their P&L or or their business models per se. So maybe Darren, you may want to jump in here.
I would argue that I would say that some companies are making good money, and it depends a little bit on their process and the product that it is that they're managing. So, for example, some products like AV amplifiers and particularly older ones, and solar inverters, particularly older ones, are full of copper. And if you just focused on that, you're getting huge amounts of copper, and copper prices are going up, so people are profitable. It also depends on whether or not, at which point the recycler operates within the supply chain too, because the biggest cost in all of product stewardship programs, whatever kind of materials recovery program it is in the reverse logistics. And so if the materials recovery doesn't include that logistics cost, then they're typically more profitable. But if it does include that logistics cost, then they're generally not profitable. Just because of the cost of logistics, and transport is very expensive. But yeah, there are lots of people making good money. But I would argue I'll just say specifically in the solar market, there right now, it's probably true to say for all processes that the recyclate recovered doesn't cover the cost of processing. It certainly doesn't cover the cost of logistics.
Thank you. No, that's been great. We have 2 more questions coming in. I know you just snuck another one in there, which is great. I think we'll have time for both of these. Stephen's asked, he said that people are crying out for accessible options for e-waste recycling near their residences and when they go shopping. How can we achieve this as in other countries? So I guess maybe an interesting way of asking this is, do each of you have sort of that a country in mind of who's doing it really well and who we can learn from? Be interesting if you have the same answer or if there's a few different bright stars that we should be following.
I'm happy to start. First, I'm just going to say that the latest round that I mentioned, the hazardous waste, is all about convenient locations for batteries and embedded batteries, which are small e-waste. So we are working on that in Victoria to have more convenient locations that are within 5-10 minutes, because we know that even within 15 minutes, a smaller e-waste, people might not just make the drive to the transfer stations to dispose them. And then if I have a country in mind, I'm certainly going to be biased coming from Europe, and I've been grown up there, so I will use Europe in general. But yeah, I don't know, I grew up with never thinking that you would put a battery in a bin. So we had already things to dispose batteries or return them, even to like the equivalent of GBI file or anything. You can return your e-waste really easily, and they'll take them. I don't say that we don't have issue with e-waste. There's still some issues and people are dropping them, but it's more in the mentality, I think.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to relearn how to do. So definitely. Darren, what about you? Who's your bright star we should follow?
Country-wise?
Yeah, if there is one.
Well, I would say Korea or Japan. It's somewhere between those two, because they have some really clever industry-based separation schemes and product recovery schemes. Probably Korea.
Great, thanks, Darren. Alvaro, how about you? Anyone that's standing out or any guidance that you can gather from other countries?
I don't actually know anything about Korea and Japan, but I'm obviously, as you can hear from my accent, I come from Europe, so that's Caroline. And I think the European Union is doing a fantastic job at regulating. And I'm back into the government. At the end of the day, we're not very good as individuals to understand what we can do with items and what happens with them and what they're made of. But in Europe, the European countries are doing great at regulating, legislating, and helping consumers and businesses do the right thing. And I think that's something that not that, I love Australia, I'm Australian, but I think it's something that is very important to kind of acknowledge that, the government needs to do more, like, in Europe, basically. I don't know if you agree with me, Caroline, but I think that's.
No, and I do agree. And I think, I mean, when you also look at Europe, it's, oops, sorry, I don't have any lights suddenly, but it's 27 countries, I think, working together. So it's the same as working like we have the federal and the states in Australia. I think it's possible. But yeah, there is good regulation, especially in understanding how recyclable your e-waste are too now. Yeah, and the products that you buy in general.
Great, thank you. And thank you everyone for all your questions. It's been a really informative session, and it's almost like you all knew how much time we had exactly, because we do have one more question and 3 minutes to answer it. So maybe a last reflection from each of our speakers. Adam's put a question in there that how do we limit unnecessary products or that are not adhering to new guides for design, reuse, repair coming into our market, such as those of sites such as your Temus and Sheins, which accelerate the consumption cycle. He's added that it is a hard question to limit consumer rights to purchase what they want, especially in a time of cost of living crisis, etc. But currently a business cannot compete with the likes of Temu price at 10% the price of the better product. So yes, would love, Darren, you've already commented on that, so I'm sure you've got some thoughts ready to go on it.
I just think it's quite amazing that you can import a home energy storage system off Temu and install it yourself at home. And it's highly problematic. So we do need to put some barriers in place for certain products. And it's problematic. And I see we've got Connor from Connor on the line. You might be able to talk to this about more specifically about batteries, but it means that you're importing these batteries which people don't actually understand the chemistry of, and they're often not labeled properly. So there's a whole lot of risk associated with that. So yeah, we do need some kind of legislation around that. It's a big issue.
Caroline, did you have any thoughts there?
I was going to say, I agree with legislations, but also product stewardships. If you can start putting money into the recycling part, and also I think it's in Europe that they are looking to maybe having a recycling fee, or I don't know I don't remember how they call it for all those Temus, so that there is more of a price point part of it and a tax to it. Maybe it would think people how they're thinking, but I agree with legislations and also what we import and the quality of it. So just some thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will put a link into the chat. There's been some regulation regarding the ultra fast fashion side that Temu's a big part of, and I know Nina from Eco Styles has put out an article on that. So I will share that in the chat.
And
not
I think
related, but
and I might be wrong, but I think New South Wales has done some legislation around battery. I think it's more for e-scooters, but also which battery you can import and use. I'm not fully across what they have done, but I've heard it, and I think it's maybe a model that could be looked at for other products. I don't know.
Where was that, Caroline?
I think it was a year or two ago in New South Wales. They said that they were going to do some legislations around the battery for e-scooters. I'll try to find that information. I remember reading it, but I might be wrong. I'm in Victoria, so.
Yeah, they've released the Product Lifecycle Responsibility Act, and I think the first set of legislation around that is regard to mobility scooters like that. But I'm not sure about what you're talking about. Yeah.
I thought there was something around qualities of batteries, but I'll double check. And sorry, I might be wrong, as I said at the beginning, but I remember reading something around those lines. Now someone is putting in thank you, Belle. So I'm not fully wrong yet.
I know we're out of time, but I wanted to add, apart from the legislation and the the steerships and all these kind of things and the imports controls, I think we need to give credit to people in general, and just the lack of education is what actually makes people make the wrong decisions sometimes. If you provide education and you kind of hammer the message, I think people are willing to do the right thing and understand. And I've seen that quite clearly since I started at RecycleSmart with many people that I have spoken to. So I think we have to give credit to people if they have the right information to make the right decisions, including purchasing less or purchasing the, items that can be recycled, etc. Obviously, with the cost of living and all that, but there is some items that don't require to be purchased, and they just purchase because they are very cheap, or things like that. So, and the way people dispose of the items, I think is something that we can actually also kind of push for, and consumers are a very good force for businesses to do the right thing as well, because they are the consumers that purchasing. So if we actually mobilize enough consumers, businesses need to do the right thing. They won't if customers buy whatever. So sorry, it's a little bit long-winded, but I think let's harness the power of goodness in people. That's all.
Yeah, great message to end on. Thank you so much for jumping in there, Alvaro. And thank you
Katie,
again.
just again,
jump in.
it was the product for lithium-ion battery in New South Wales that I was referring to, and I've put the link in the chat where there is guidance for requirements for manufacturers and suppliers of e-micro mobility products in New South Wales.
Great, thank you so much.
In lithium-ion.
Yeah, great. We'll keep the chat open for a few minutes afterwards so that everyone can grab all those useful links there. So we are out of time, but thank you very much to our speakers for all of your insights, and also for the audience. It's always great when people get involved and share their own links and share their own insights as well. It makes for a really interesting conversation. So thanks for joining. We'll be sharing the recording with you as soon as we can, as well as some of the contact details of the speakers for you to make some follow-ups. So thank you again, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.